Sometimes I think about how many people walk through the doors of the church or on the street who haven't been touched by another human in years. Just the slightest gesture of kindness can be really life-changing for people.
Truett Cathy, who started Chick-fil-A, I remember as a kid said something to me one time. He said, "Jeff, you know how to tell when somebody needs encouragement?" And I was like, "No, sir." He goes, "If they're breathing." But it was almost like training me at an early age to be kind, to see people and to see something to encourage them about.
And why did you tell me to get out of the business earlier?
Well, people don't remember what you said. People remember how you made them feel.
This is Talking Truth. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Another episode, Talking Truth. I am Dan Whitney, along with Bryan Clark and our special guest. I think the last time he's with us, but he joins us every now and then, the fabulous, you might be a redneck, Mr. Jeff Foxworthy. He's done so many, many things. I can't label him all. I can't give all of his credits, but everybody knows Jeff. Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Oh, man, I enjoy this. I enjoy just pondering and commenting on this stuff.
Today we're talking about a kind-hearted leader, 2 Samuel chapter 9. And here's what we're talking about today. Bryan will read the message, by the way. Jeff and I comment, as always. We hope that you get something out of it. And today we're talking about what you do when nobody's looking. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. What you do when no one is looking. David had the kind of power to do anything, but what he chose to do says a lot about his heart. And it's a story about grace, kindness, and using what we've been given to lift others up. I love these stories about David. Man, it's so relatable to the human condition. And I'm so glad, very thankful for David and his testimony in these chapters. So, Bryan, go ahead and read it. Bryan today will do the paragraph, and he'll also do it in Spanish. We've been getting a lot of people saying, could he do two different ones? So he'll read that, and then or I could do the Spanish, and you could do.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay.
All right. So here's the question: if you could... I can't believe I laughed at that. I'm disappointed in myself.
Brian. Yeah, that's a weak moment.
It was a weak moment.
And when you encourage him, he just keeps doing it.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed in myself.
I'm happy I made you
But
laugh.
it was good. So if you could get away with anything, what would you do? We live in a culture where people's morality is often defined by what's accepted by the culture around them. As culture changes, so does people's morality. But what if you could get away with anything? The more power and influence people have, the more they get away with. This is a big problem with leadership in our culture. When Saul was king, he slaughtered 85 priests in cold blood. Why? Well, because he could get away with it. David has far more power than Saul could have ever dreamed of. So what will he do with that power? Well, that's what we want to talk about in this episode. If you remember, decades before this story, David and Saul's son Jonathan made a covenant that when David became king, he would remember Jonathan's family with kindness. 30 years later, David wanted to know if there was anyone left from Saul's family he could show kindness to for Jonathan's sake. The word translated kindness is not a simple word. It's the Hebrew word hased. It carried the idea of kindness shown to an inferior by a superior. The idea was a superior demonstrated kindness to someone who had no capacity whatsoever to repay the favor. It was simply an act of pure kindness. It's often used of God in his kindness toward his people. That's why David said he wanted to show the kindness of God to someone. God had been kind to David, and in return he wanted to show that kindness to someone else. David was made aware of Jonathan's crippled son Mephibosheth, whom we learned about in chapter 4. Mephibosheth had been living in relative obscurity east of the Jordan River, likely barely surviving and living in fear that if David found out about him, he would put him to death. When Mephibosheth was brought into the presence of David, he fell on his face and prostrated himself. In the ancient world, if a new family took over the throne, the old king and his family were typically put to death. No doubt Mephibosheth believed he was about to die. But David immediately told him not to be afraid. His intentions were to show kindness to him for the sake of his father, Jonathan. David would give him all the land that had belonged to his grandfather, Saul. In other words, in a moment, David had made him a very rich man. In addition, David invited him to eat regularly at the king's table, like one of his own sons. Mephibosheth was stunned and wanted to know why the king would regard someone like him. David did not do this for any other reason than to show kindness. It's a beautiful moment in the David story. It brought David great joy to remember his dear friend Jonathan by extending the same kindness to Mephibosheth that God had shown to him. We have learned before that David is a type, a foreshadow of the great king to come, the Lord Jesus Christ. So if David is a type of Christ in this story, who does Mephibosheth represent? He represents us, you and me. We are crippled and broken in so many ways. We come stumbling into the presence of a holy God, deserving his wrath and condemnation. Yet what we receive is a pure act of kindness. God sent his son to die the death that we deserved on the cross. He paid for our sins. Then he offers the forgiveness of sins and salvation purely as an act of kindness to us. But not only that, he lavishes his riches on us, and he seats us with Christ in the heavenlies to be displayed as a trophy of his grace forever. We are crazy rich for no other reason than the love and kindness of God toward us. So if God has shown such kindness to you, how are you showing his kindness to others? David wanted to display the kindness of God toward him by showing kindness to Mephibosheth. So what about us? How are we showing that same kindness to our family and friends, to our neighbors and the people we work with and go to school with? How do we show that same kindness to people with no capacity to repay us? I have no doubt there are hurting people all around you who need to experience the kindness of God. God was kind to you. Now it's your turn to show that kindness to others. So let's bring in Dan and Jeff and talk about this. This is a beautiful part of the David story, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. How could David not known about him?
Mephibosheth? Yeah. Can you say Mephibosheth?
Mephibosheth.
Oh, nailed it.
Well, that's my son's middle name.
Is that what it is? I thought that was Kara's middle name.
Wyatt Mephibosheth.
Okay. That's a great question, but you have to go back to the ancient world. Communication was difficult. Mephibosheth would have been a little child when David was out in the wilderness, so David wouldn't have ever known he was even born.
Okay.
So by the time David comes back and all this goes down to move Mephibosheth, let's see there, I'm being punished for my taunting of you. I can't say it.
Right.
And they didn't have Facebook, so you couldn't follow, friend request or anything like that.
I think even for the sake of Mephibosheth, they would have kept it quiet and just moved him to a place they thought was safer.
What do you think when they came to him and said, David wants to see you?
I think he had to be scared because it's,
Yeah.
the king destroyed the previous king's family. They didn't want any threats.
Just the fact he didn't run away, God was in that.
Well, he was a cripple. I mean,
He was
his life would have.
Couldn't run. Way to go, Dan. Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't say how he was crippled. It just said he was crippled.
Both his feet were crippled. It says so in the, well, I've got
Yeah,
a Bible.
earlier. It says
I'll
for
get
earlier.
I'll
Yeah.
get you one. So
Like in, yeah.
I did.
In chapter 4,
Okay.
2 Samuel 4,
We
went
talked
through
about his
that,
crippled feet. Okay. Well, I didn't.
But I think for a crippled guy like that, life would have been extraordinarily difficult.
Yeah.
So it's almost like taking a street person, and in a moment you're making them extremely wealthy just to be kind to them.
Right, which is amazing.
It's shocking. It's a beautiful picture of David's heart.
well, it is, and that's the key. I think it's a heart job. You know, it's not a performance thing. We were talking earlier about the little town I grew up in. That was where Chick-fil-A started, and Truett Cathy, who started Chick-fil-A, I remember as a kid said something to me one time. He's such a wise man, but he said, Jeff, you know how to tell when somebody needs encouragement? And I was like, no, sir. He goes, if they're breathing, he goes, everybody needs encouragement, and it doesn't cost you anything to give it to them. But what that did was, you know, because we have to get trained up in things. It taught me to see the people that other people look past, whether it was the server or the person running the cash register or the person restocking the shelves, but to see them and then to really look at them and say, hey, man, you got a great head of hair, or hey, man, great job stocking those shelves, or whatever. But it was almost like training me at an early age to be kind, to see people and to see something to encourage them about.
Then why did you tell me to get out of the business earlier?
Well, that was being kind to the listening audience, but you didn't take my advice. But kindness is a hard issue, not a performance thing. It's to be truly kind is a hard issue, and to me, that's to become a Christ follower. That's it. You don't change from the outside in; you change from the inside out. And but I'm so thankful that Mr. Cathy breathed some of that stuff into me, because it was a lesson. It was a simple lesson, but it stuck with a kid. And my whole life, I've tried to be kind to people that way, to look at the people that other people look past, and to find some way to encourage them, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, he does too. Just a great encourager. That's a fact. But it makes you, and not only that, it makes you feel good. Like when it said that David, it made him feel good to know that he's taking care of some Jonathan's.
Yeah,
family.
he loved Jonathan.
It does make you feel good, whenever you can go out of your way and do something nice for somebody, or somebody that needed something and they didn't, and you found out. I mean, it definitely makes you feel good. Absolutely. So I can't even imagine how David felt. I mean, he totally changed this guy's life.
I mean, you think about, it's hard for us probably to process a king. King makes up his own rules, makes up his own law. He can do whatever he wants. And certainly David could have done whatever he wanted. So the fact that he made the choice to demonstrate this level of kindness because of his friendship with Jonathan, it's remarkable. I think in that ancient culture, it was almost unheard of for a king to do something like that.
But what a great example, because people watch, what's the old Maya Angelou thing? People don't remember what you said. People remember how you made them feel, and that's.
Well, you don't see a lot of, You don't see a lot of that in our culture today. It seems like whenever somebody's being kind to somebody else, it's almost like there's an agenda, some
Yep.
other ulterior motive that they're getting at.
Yeah, I don't think it's common, but it's a beautiful picture of how God has responded to us.
Well, but Bryan, if we're made in God's image, somewhere isn't that originally woven into our DNA? I mean, and we've lost it. We lost it in the garden. But if we're in His image, and I think, Dan, when you talk about that makes you feel good, it's because you're doing the thing that you were created for. That's why it makes you feel good. Right?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think deep down in our hearts, everybody genuinely longs for something different, like something more. This feeling I was made for something more than this.
Yeah.
And I think those are little glimpses of the world as God intended it to be and will be again one day. And I like to think of just little glimpses of shalom when we show kindness to people. It's like this is the way the world was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's right on the money. That's powerful. It's the way it was intended, and it got derailed and it got knocked off track, but it's the way it's going to be again. And man, just the thought of that makes me long for heaven. That, no more tears, no more pain, no more tears, because we're all being kind to each other.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well,
But it is coming.
Boy, that'll be wonderful if the entire population had a heart like that. It'd be amazing. The more power and influence, though, we have in life, the more we need to consider what we do with that influence. So do we use it for ourselves, or do we use it to serve others?
Yeah, well, Jeff talked about in the previous episode, comedy giving both of you a platform. It's an opportunity. It can be a way to make a lot of money, to try to be significant and be famous, but it also could be a platform to do good. And I think it's really encouraging to people that people like you, Dan, and you, Jeff, really do choose to use your platform to help other people. It's an opportunity God's given you, and I think He's pleased with that.
Yeah, and the more that you stay in the Word, and the more that you get sanctified, and the more from the inside out, the more that you use those talents in different aspects. Like, I never thought in a million years. I mean, when I first started doing it, I wasn't, I was backslid, and I was just doing whatever, and for my own glory, and for, just getting up, make people laugh, not care about consequences of this or that, just making money. But man, the more I stay into the Word, the more that I get sanctified, I branch out into other areas. Like, I never thought in a million years that I would start going to Fellowship of Christian Athletes, or going to Youth for Christ events, or getting invited to just show up at a church and tell some jokes and give my testimony. Or, I was just at a school in Georgia called the Baylor School, where they invited me to come up and talk about Mater and give my testimony. And I would have never done that before. But the more that I stay engaged in Jesus, and the more that He starts to take a bigger presence inside of me, the more I do those things. And I'll be honest, it is so much more fulfilling doing those things. I mean, of course, the other things were fine, but these just seems to be way more fulfilling, and just makes me so much happier inside. So yeah, you know. So that's why it's so important to stay engaged and to always keep Jesus close, because he'll take those talents and they'll start out here and then they will branch out and to do some good things for the kingdom.
I think sometimes we underestimate just the power of a kind word or a touch. Sometimes I think about how many people walk through the doors of the church, or how many people do we pass on the street who haven't been touched by another human in years. They live alone. Nobody hugs them. They don't hug anybody else. It's like just the slightest gesture of kindness can be really life-changing for people.
Absolutely.
My wife Patty serves at the city mission. She serves food, and she works really hard to learn the names of the homeless people. She calls them by name. She knows their story. She even remembers how they order. And these people are shocked because they're just not used to kindness. Why would anyone care? And yet the impact of that is very significant.
Well, yeah, when I started doing Bible studies at the Atlanta mission, that was the first thing we were told. Learn people's names, learn people's stories. And it's funny, Brian, because like in comedy, what you're trying to do, no matter, I mean, I'm obviously from the Deep South, but no matter where I'm playing, I'm trying to find that common connection, that common thread, whether I'm making jokes about my wife or my parents or my kids, or it's what do we have in common? And you realize as human beings, it doesn't matter what you look like, where you're from, we all want the same things. We all want to be seen. We all want to be loved, and we all want to be significant. That's what every human being wants. We all want to be worth something, and that's the beauty of the message of Jesus is he goes, I see you, I created you, I know you, I know more about you than you know about yourself. And not only are you worth something to me, you're worth everything to me. God says, I let him nail my perfect son to a cross just for you. If you'd have been the only person, just for you. So I do see you, and you're not worth something. You're worth everything to me. And man, that'll chicken skin me, knowing what I know about myself. Yeah, you do see me, you do know me, and despite that, I'm worth everything to you. Hey, yeah, you talk about humbling. That's humbling.
Yeah, that's powerful.
What do you, just from if somebody's listening that's not a Christian, what do you say to them when they say, "Well, you don't need Jesus to be kind"? I mean, what do you say?
Well, I think that's true to an extent. Jeff mentioned it earlier. As people made in the image of God, we can show love and kindness to other people, but it's going to be limited because we're broken and fallen, and our own motives, our own intentions creep in there. Am I doing this for them? Am I doing this for me? Am I doing this so I'll feel better? That whole idea of Hesed is like, this is for no other reason other than it's a pure act of kindness. And I don't think someone can actually be motivated that purely apart from a relationship with Christ, having their sins forgiven, standing right with God. So I think it's true, but it's true to an extent. It's limited.
Right. Motive-wise?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I was just saying for somebody that's
a
listening.
great question.
Yeah, because you know you get those. So
I know atheists that are very kind. They're caring people. They can make wonderful friends and neighbors, but there's still a limit without Christ. There's a whole nother dimension that Jesus brings that would be unknown to those without Christ.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff, anything else to add?
No, this is good stuff, and it's funny, I when I meet somebody that's seeking, I always tell them, go read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Start there. And like a lot of people, I love the New Testament. I love the New Covenant. I love the good news. But it's funny, you can go back in the old and it all ties together, You go look at the words in red, almost all of them are quoting scripture from the Old Testament. It's very, when Dan called me and said, "Hey, can you come on and be a guest with us?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what are you doing? What are y'all talking about this week? What are you studying?" And he said, "2 Samuel." If I'm going to be honest, there's part of me go, "Oh, dang, I was hoping it would be Galatians or something," but okay. But man, then you go back and you get into it and you start reading and you're going, such wisdom here, such wisdom in leadership, such wisdom in humility, such wisdom in kindness. And I'm very thankful you guys asked me for this, because I get back in there and I go, I need to be reminded of this stuff. I need to be reminded of it all the time.
Yeah, Jeff, it's funny. That's what I tell Bryan all the time. I love doing this show because I need this just as much as anybody else needs it. I get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
So I'm very thankful for this show. I learned so much, and it really helps me. I would like, Bryan, before we sign off here on this last show, I always bring up a lot about it's about a relationship with Jesus. It's not about religion. Get away from religion. And I don't want people to think, because some people think, well, I mean, it has nothing to do with you need to go to church and be around other believers. I get it, but can you just tell the people what the difference between religion is? What we talk about when we say it's not about religion?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to understand it is Adam and Eve were created in the Garden of Eden to
well, if we're going to start all the way back at Adam and Eve, let me get some coffee.
to find their significance and value in being rightly related to God, and to enjoy a beautiful love relationship with Him in a place called paradise. They sin, they get kicked out of the garden, now apart from God. They're trying to find significance and value and meaning in life separated from God. So the only option is they're going to have to play God, and based on their own performance, which is measured by competition and comparison, they're going to try and make themselves significant. They're going to try and give themselves value. Religion is simply inserting God into that value system. It's all based on my performance, and it's compete and compare, and somehow I, functioning as my own God, I'm trying to make myself acceptable to God. So it's all about performance and trying to merit favor with God. The difference is the message of the gospel is completely based on what God has done for us. He did for us what we could not do for ourselves, and through the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus, offers that salvation freely as a gift of His grace for anyone who chooses to receive it. So I would say that's the big difference. Religion is still me trying to do it myself,
right? Which
is a function of being my own God.
Well, and if you think about who did Jesus butt heads with? He didn't butt heads with the sinners and the tax collectors. He butted head with the religious authorities, because they were still trying to do that by their own performance and by how many laws they could uphold. And it's probably the hardest for them for that to sink in, that it's like, no, it's not about you, it's about me, And he said that. He died for that. That's why he died, because he said, I am the way, and I am the truth, and I am the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. And they were like, you're claiming to be God then, so we're going to have to kill you. But look at the example. That's who he butted heads with.
Right. And it shows the hypocrisy of the religious people.
It's crazy that when God became flesh and walked on the earth, it's the religious people that had him executed.
Yeah. It's very, very Christian of
It's like the story where they lowered the crippled guy through the ceiling, and he said, pick up your mat and walk. He heals him. They don't want to crucify him for that, but then he follows that up with, and your sins are forgiven. And when he says that, he signs his death warrant right there. That got a lot more to go, but right then, when he says your sins are forgiven, that's when he signed his death warrant.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing by the rules.
No.
They didn't like that at all.
The rules. Well, look.
But that's kind of what I like about being a Jesus follower, is not playing by the rules. I'll be kind when you're not. Because this ain't home for me. I'm just camping. I like being different. And I know that the ways that the world tells you to have peace and to be happy, it's not the truth, because it doesn't work. I'm in a business where I've seen people that were incredibly famous and unbelievably wealthy, and some of them are some of the most miserable human beings I've ever seen in my life. So,
absolutely,
money doesn't make you happy. Fame doesn't make you happy. Those are lies. It doesn't work. Things don't make you happy, and I'm glad I saw that. It was exposed to that, and it's like, okay, if that's not so, I've been lied to about that. What is the truth? What can give me that peace that passes understanding? I mean, it doesn't even make sense. Why are you so at peace? You're living in a chaotic world. Why are you so at peace? Well, passes understanding, because I'm not in control, but I'm following the one that is.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that puts a good bow on it right there, doesn't it?
Beautiful.
Man, it's so good, Jeff. Thank you. Hey, everybody, listen, that was awesome. Stay in the Word, stay close to Jesus Christ, let him work from the inside out on you. And, man, keep him close. Man, thanks so much, Jeff. Jeff Foxworthy, everybody. 3 episodes we did with him. We love having him, and we'd love to have you come back and join us again if you get a chance.
Thank you, Jeff.
You betcha. Always good talking with you guys. You guys make me think about good stuff.
Man, that's great. Well, it's so cool. I love having him on. Love having my buddy Jeff. Listen, 2 weeks. Not that I don't love having you, Bryan. Obviously,
right.
I love being with Bryan.
I'll have to perform better.
It's cool. It's cool to have Jeff with us. Listen, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Another episode. Until then, look for ways to reflect God's kindness right where you are right now, if you can. And if you got a question, something on your mind, we'd love to hear from you. Just head to talkintruth.com. That's talk, the letter N with truth after it, and .com. And leave us a comment. And we will see you again. Mr. Foxworthy, we love you. Get her done. Get her done.